have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
What?
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor.
What difference at this point does it make?
Doesn't make sense.
If you're looking to make sense out of what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chickie Bellis, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on Internet radio. And you can join the show and let your voice be heard by dialing 917-889-3675. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
When an emergency strikes, what's your first impulse? If your answer is run to the grocery store, you're likely to find chaos and plenty of empty shelves. So how do you avoid this? Well, it's simple. You use today to make a plan, to prepare for things that may happen. It's a hurricane, earthquake, blizzard, or even social unrest, especially in today's political environment. The practical place to start is by storing up food in your home. And I use My Patriot Supply for my food storage. If you don't have an emergency food supply, it's time to do so. Here's a great item that makes it really simple. A 2-week food kit that comes in a rugged tote. And it's only $75 when you go to my special website, preparewithsouthernsense.com, or call 888-441-7290. This food kit includes breakfast, lunch, and dinners that will last up to 25 years on your storage shelves. So order now and prepare yourself, and then rest easy. So it's very simple. Just call 888-441-7290 or go to preparewithsouthernsense.com. You know what? Let's make it even more simple than that. You're listening to my show, and it's called Southern Sense, and you know you put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com, and click on the icon for My Patriot Food. All right, Annie's disorganized again. Welcome to another screwed up show here with Southern Sense, live on Blog Talk Radio, SHR Media, Lone Star Daily News, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, Facebook, all the heck with it. Just go to the name of the show, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. Oh man, I'm really on the ball today. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to end the show right here, Curtis, right now. I'm going back to bed. That's it. Show's over. Bye. Oh, man. I wish. Oh, I wish. Listen, we got so much to talk about. It's like we're being hit over the head, not once a week, not every other day, not every day, every minute, every second you walk around, we're being hit over the head with some of the craziest things I have ever seen in my lifetime. Would you believe, of all things, Jerry the Nat Nadler has actually called out AOC for her anti-Semitism, as well as the other mad squads out there, Omar Tlaib and Rashid Tlaib and Omar Ilian, or whatever, the mad squad. But they're actually Yeah, he's got a Jewish son-in-law, a Jewish daughter, a Jewish grandchild, and he's anti-Semitic. That goes real far. Anyway, we got ourselves a great show lined up. We've got a new author. She's not a new author, but to the show she's new. Professor Mary Grabar. I have to admit my ignorance. And hey, listen, I don't know everything, as much as I try to pretend I do. But I never heard about Howard Zinn until I read her book. Folks, this explains a lot if you read about Howard Zinn and his influence on our education system and on generations of our children, which explains a lot about what is going on today. People like me were blind to it, and now it's out there for us to fight back with. And we are fighting back. Then we have two friends of yours, Walt Myers III. He's going to be with us in the middle of the show, and then I'm going to close out with Michael Barnett, who is the chairman of the Republican Party out of Palm Beach County, Florida. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to do, Curtis. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. Hey, listen, before we really do start, this is how much CNN, the criminal news network, is in touch with the American people and with what is going on out there. And this individual who just signed up with the criminal news network, CNN, actually helps to brand their name, the criminal news network. Guess who they signed up as a consultant, Curtis? I bet you couldn't guess in a million years. Let me give you a hint. He's actually perjured himself under oath to Congress. He actually had been a former deputy director of a major federal agency responsible for investigating crimes. And he perjured himself. He helped cover up criminal activity. But he's a buddy of Comey's, Andrew McCabe. CNN just signed up Andrew McCabe. So, folks, you can't call it the Clinton News Network. It is the Criminal News Network. We're going to talk about a lot of this and so much more as we get on with the show. I want to welcome everyone that is listening in the studio as well as in our chat rooms. If you are in the SHR chat room, unfortunately, for some reason, it was not allowing me to sign in with Facebook. So you'd normally see Annie up there. If you see Buford Tea Party, that's me over at SHR Media. I had to use my Twitter account to sign into SHR. So it's not just Blog Talk Radio screwing up, it's everywhere else. So one of these days we'll have a glitch-free broadcast. Oh, man. But that said, let's get on with what's important. And what is important is that you know that we start off each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Deputy Sheriff Peter Herrera of the El Paso Sheriff's Department. His end of watch was March 24th of this year. As I pull the information up. This is coming from Defense Maven, also from Legacy.com, Officer Down Memorial page. And it starts off, El Paso County Sheriff Deputy Peter Herrera died in the line of duty on Sunday, March 24th, more than 2 days after a felon repeatedly shot him during a traffic stop. The incident began around 1:50 a.m. on March 22nd, when Deputy Herrera made a traffic stop for a headlight and registration violations on Chicken Ranch Road in San Lazario, according to KFOX. Deputy Herrera ordered the two occupants out of the vehicle, at which point 27-year-old Fasudo Chavez immediately opened fire, Fox News reported. Investigators estimated Chavez fired his weapon approximately 15 times. Not once, not twice, 15 times, according to KTSM. It was a very violent and unprovoked attack, according to the deputy. The deputy never even had the chance to draw his weapon, Sheriff Wiles stated. Chavez tossed his gun and took off on foot with a woman who had been with him in the suspect vehicle. They hid in a shed down the street, but were arrested shortly thereafter, according to a KTSM report. Deputy Herrera was rushed to a hospital where he underwent surgery. He remained in critical condition, but was wearing a ballistic vest and was initially expected to survive his wounds, officials said on Friday. Deputy Herrera, unfortunately, passed away at approximately 5:30 p.m. on the Sunday. Sheriff Wiles said during a press conference, according to KTSM. He was a great man who was looked up to by many. We suffered a tremendous loss today, not just his family, but each and every member of this agency and the community as a whole, stated the sheriff. Chavez has been charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon and capital murder of a peace officer. Sheriff Wiles said he will be asking for the death penalty. According to court records, Chavez also recently failed to appear at a recent trial for a domestic violence charge. He was wanted for criminal mischief, delivery of marijuana, and assault of a family member at the time of the traffic stop, the El Paso Times reported. Sheriff Wiles said Chavez was also under investigation for another domestic violence case that allegedly occurred 2 days prior to the shooting. The victim in that incident was the female passenger in Chavez's vehicle. The female passenger with Chavez cooperated with investigators and has been released from custody. Sheriff Wiles said that Deputy Herrera worked for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office for 11 years and served the past 5 or 6 years as a deputy. Community members and fellow officers turned out in droves to donate blood, financial assistance, and other means of support in the wake of the shooting. A blood drive was arranged to help the wounded deputy and he received such a heavy response that they ran out of collection bags. Deputy Herrera underwent additional surgeries, but was responsive and very alert in the days before his tragic death, Sheriff Wiles stated. Quite frankly, we thought he was doing well, and this is a shock to us. Very unexpected, he told reporters. Even though we knew his injuries were severe, we were just praying and hoping for the best. And it just wasn't meant to be. Deputy Herrera leaves behind his wife, Ashley. Our hearts are heavy, and there are no words to help his family in this difficult time, the El Paso Fallen Officers Memorial Foundation said in a Facebook post. We ask that you keep his family and the El Paso County Sheriff's Department in your prayers. Heaven has gained another warrior. Godspeed, Deputy Herrera. We've got watch from here. And this is from legacy.com. It is with great sadness that the family announces the passing of Deputy Peter John Herrera, Pete, 35, of El Paso, Texas, on Sunday, March 24, 2019. Pete was born December 12th of 1983. He was a Del Valle High School graduate and a lifelong resident of El Paso. He gave his life protecting and serving the county of El Paso and the community he loved. Pete was a compassionate, good-hearted, hard-working man who loved his family, friends, and fellow law enforcement officers. He was the epitome of what every law enforcement officer should be. Pete honorably served El Paso County for 11 years, serving as a correction officer for 6 and an El Paso County Sheriff's Deputy for the last 5 years. He is survived by his wife, Ashley Herrera, his daughter, Natalie Bell Maldonado, his parents, Louise and Esther Herrera, his brother, Louis Herrera, and his sister, Melissa. Peter will also be forever remembered by his nephews, nieces, extended family, dear friends, and fellow Leos. He is preceded in death by his grandparents, Luis L. Herrera, Thomas Herrera, and Pedro Hajar. He enjoyed spending time with his family, and he demonstrated his love and support of them daily. He's highly thought of by his friends and fellow deputies. Pete was a one-of-a-kind and will be remembered as such. The family would like to thank the staff of trauma surgeons, the ICU nurses from Del Sol Hospital, with whom worked tirelessly and fervently nonstop. Watch over your fellow brothers and sisters, Deputy, and rest easy. They will take it from here. And finally, from the Officer Down memorial page, from his sister Melissa Herrera, who is an assistant chief in the U.S. Border Patrol, and she writes to her brother, "My dearest brother, I know you are watching over us all now. I know your wings are strong, big, and beautiful. You have always been a hero. You will never be forgotten. You have so much love from so many. Until we meet again, I will take care of Mom and Dad. I love you always." Today's show is dedicated to Deputy Herrera. It is also dedicated to all those brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there who serve in our military, from the birth of this great nation through today and into its glorious future. We dedicate to them this song, Amazing Grace. May God bless each and every one.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. And when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's grace than when we first begun. We've no less days to sing God's grace
All right, and we're back. Excuse me. You're here listening to Southern Sense live on Blog Talk Radio, SHR Media, the Lone Star Daily News, up on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker. Oh, the heck with it. Just go to the name of the show, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. Of course, I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick, Annie, along with my debonair, intellectual, and oh-so-tolerant co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Oh, man, Curtis, you just... Yeah, you told me off air that you're working on a new book with this. What is this, 25, 26? How many have you written now? 27. Mm. Ooh. Ooh. In other words, Annie, keep your big mouth shut. Listen, I want to remind, because I see people popping up into the studio calling in. If you do want to participate in the conversation here, please remember to press 1. Otherwise, I will assume that you're just listening. If you are our next guest, make sure you do press 1 so I know that you're in the queue there so I can bring you online. Listen, something popped up in the news, and I don't know if anyone at all is talking about this. I mentioned earlier that Andrew McCabe has now been signed up to the criminal news network CNN as an consultant on CNN. Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel. It gives a real meaning to the name criminal in CNN. I buy a lot of stuff online, like I'm sure a lot of people do. Unfortunately, big box stores are going to be going the way of a dinosaur because so much is more available at a cheaper price online. And one of those stores is Overstock, overstock.com. Well, guess what? The CEO, Patrick Byrne, has resigned from overstock.com as of yesterday. And this was reported on the Daily Wire. And it reads, Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne, who resigned from the company on Thursday amid his alleged ties to a government operation, made a bombshell accusation on CNN on late Thursday night, claiming that top FBI officials reached out to him in 2015 and 2016 to conduct law enforcement activities that turned out to be political espionage. Byrne appeared to indicate that the request came from FBI agents after it was passed down from a top FBI official. You listening, CNN? Who he later says he learned was anti-Trump agent Peter Strzok. Byrne said that the political espionage operation targeted 4 candidates: Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. Interesting, isn't that, Curtis? Now, what would Overstock.com have that would contribute to a political espionage against these 4 candidates, 3 of whom are Republicans? One happens to be the sitting president of the United States. You would think maybe Amazon, but if they're going and looking at Overstock.com to be co-conspirators in this spying on American citizens, did they approach Amazon? Did they approach any other online company to dig up dirt on American citizens? Very, very interesting question. Now, let's take this a little bit, one step even further, because if you remember last Friday, I asked this question because there are various security agencies in our government that are looking to use the cloud to store data. And the cloud that they're using is controlled by Amazon. Does anyone have any reason to fear for our national security when you have a private company maintaining national security data? Does anyone have any fear here? Yeah. Yeah. Well, Holger correctly points out, because later on in the article that was up on the Daily Wire, that the FBI was getting Dave, what the guy's name is, Patrick Byrne, whatever his name is, to pursue a romantic relationship with our Russian spy that was involved in Russiagate. He was trying to get her to help win influence in powerful Republican circles. At the behest of our government. Thank you, Holger, for adding that to the conversation. I did notice someone raising their hand in the studio. Again, if you do want to ask a question, join the conversation, or if you're our next guest, please press 1 so I can bring you on air. I did see the finger go up to me, and I got the finger again. So thanks for giving me the finger. I'm your hostess, Annie, the radio chick. You got the finger. Who am I speaking to? Hi, Joe. Why does your voice sound familiar? Oh, hi, Joe. Yes, that rings a bell. Okay. That would be a very excellent question, but I think with the amount of social networks that are out there that have been doing uncovering information, whether or not it's the Daily Caller or any others, Gateway Pundit, I'm sure that a lot of them were diving into the data that was revealed in the Steele dossier, proving that it was false. I got background noise. Do you have a speaker on in the background? Okay. But I know Gateway Pundit broke some of this information. I'm getting a hum now. Huh. Yeah. All right. But I do know Gateway Pundit broke a lot of this information. So where he got it from, I don't know. And Jim Holt normally has his thumb on the pulse of what's going on in the intelligence community. But people's just started to read it and break it apart. So who started the initial investigation? Well, actually, the Steele dossier was put together by this agent Steele at the bequest of Fusion GPS for the Hillary Clinton campaign. So it was not a government document. It was a private document. So people have access to it. And hey, listen, the public is leaky with news. And the FBI used this privately funded document to obtain the FISA warrants. So it was not a government investigation that initiated the Steele dossier. It was Hillary Clinton campaign and Fusion GPS, which is Nellie Orr, married to Bruce Orr in the DOJ. All right, so all you have to do is just follow the dots, and I'm sure it's not very hard for Jim Holt or anyone else in his caliber of investigative journalism to uncover the truths and the facts. And matter of fact, Vorp is putting in the chat room that he believes that the Hillary Clinton campaign actually handed the Steele dossier out, which I wouldn't doubt. Hey, listen, look what we have on Trump. He pees on the beds in Moscow while he's with hookers. Come on. I mean, the Hillary Clinton campaign is leaker. And no. He was a private citizen at the time he did that. He was contracted as a private contractor, not as a one government talking to another, not like the CIA talking to MI6. This was a privately funded and paid for by a private Democratic arm, Fusion GPS. The government had nothing to do with creating, I'm sure, at the urging of Bruce Orr, James Comey, and Rob Rosenstein, and all the others in the government going to Bruce Orr saying, tell your wife, this is what we want Fusion GPS to do. Tell your wife, we want this guy to put the dossier together, and we want to sink Donald Trump. So I'm sure the deep state in these individuals prodding a private company, Fusion GPS, using the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign to pay for it. So, of course, what do you think is going to happen? All right. Curtis, it looks like we do have our guest in on the line. So, Joe, thank you for the call. I'm going to put you on mute for now, and let's bring on our guest. Thank you, Joe. All right, let's bring in Professor Mary Grabar. And I'm sure you were having fun listening to this, Professor. The question was, how did the Steele dossier get leaked out there? And, when you consider where it came from and the deep state that went around it, woo, oh my goodness, my head is spinning already. Well, welcome aboard to the show. You have a fantastic book that was just released just 3 days ago called Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. And actually, it's not a generation, it's several generations when you can think about how many decades his influence has spanned our education system. This is scary. You're breaking up. Are you on a cell phone? You're breaking up, coming in and out. Yeah, we're getting. Oh, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay, sounds like a plan. Okay. All right, she's going to be calling us back on here. Now what was I talking about? Fly. Oh, welcome to the chat room, Fly. He says the Steele dossier reminds me of a roll of toilet paper. used. Someone is saying that there's a problem with the audio. Oh, the audio is painful. On which end? My end, Curtis end, guest end? If there's a problem with the audio, let me know where it's coming from. Huh. All right. Anyway, she's going to be calling back in as soon as she can get to her landline. But, talk about not paying attention since, I wasn't blessed with children. I've got stepkids. They're all grown. I married into a family. So I didn't have to put kids through school. So I'm not aware of what was going on with this one individual, Howard Zinn, and others that influenced his work. And I was completely ignorant of this. And I'm glad that this book has been written at this time so we can do a fight back against the Zinn Education Project, which Holder writes about in the chat room here. We're finding the influence he has in our education system as well as in other areas of society is absolutely phenomenal. And I do believe this is our guest back. Is this Professor Grabar? Oh, so much better, so much better. What a pleasure. As I was reading your book, I was not aware of how much influence this one individual had with his textbooks. And I'm half Italian. I belonged to the Columbia Association. I proudly marched in the Columbus Day parades. And when I was listening to the backlash over Christopher Columbus, I'm going, where is this information coming from? But I wasn't as politically active as I am today, so I never bothered to delve into it. And I think that's a problem we have on the conservative side of the political spectrum. We just want to go on with our daily lives and just let life go on and don't bother us until we see something like this come to be, where we see the Columbus statues being defaced, American history literally being rewritten before our eyes, and we're not paying attention. Now, it's really phenomenal because your book really did open up my eyes and helped explain to me why a lot of things that are going on today are going on. Because we've had since the 1990s this indoctrination. And I've said, I've been doing the show now going on, this will entering my 10th year, that it's an education indoctrination. And they've gotten where they've got us now with, public schools has kindergarten. Now they want the pre-K. Soon they're going to be taking the baby directly from the womb into a nursery to be indoctrinated. Shades of what was that? Oh my goodness, Farrah Fawcett was in the movie. Where at the when you turn 21, they kill you. Logan's Run. Talk about a brain fart. We're going to be turning into Logan's Run pretty soon if we keep going down this path. It's funny because you go into one of the main reasons why Columbus is the way he is and why Spain and Portugal were really striving to spread Christianity. Because people forget that the Islamic world had subjugated a large portion of Europe, including Spain and Portugal, which gave rise to the backlash of the Inquisition. Matter of fact, the crucifix I wear is the sword of St. James, who was believed to have been instrumental in chasing the Moors out of the Iberian Peninsula. But people forget about that history, and you bring it up in your book. Is that the best way to fight radical Islam, which they realized how many years ago? Good Lord, I'm doing a quick math in my head and I'm failing at it. You're talking about the 13th, 14th, 15th centuries when they finally were able to chase them out. And we haven't learned from our history. And you bring this all up in the book. Christianity is bad. Western civilization is bad. We're mean, bad people. It's amazing how he even rewrote his own history. and I read the book about Spelman, and I'm like, how the heck did he get hired at Spelman College? I mean, of all places, a highly Christian school, and you've got this radical communist, among the sheep. Well, there is a question for you in the chat room, and the question is from Holger. He's asking when Zinn gained influence in American education, who was president of the country, but he became influential over several decades. It took a while for the steam to get going in that engine. It's amazing. It's amazing. And the influence he has, we can trace directly into the movement of Antifa. And you also had this crazy guy that tried bombing the ICE facility. In his manifesto, we're finding it showing up, his influence all over the place, which is extremely disruptive to our nation. Well, it's to the point where now even California is putting out curriculum that is anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-cop, based upon what he was writing. And this is going to be put in statewide in California. And we're not worried about, Common Core education anymore. This should be even garner more of our attention than that. It is really, really scary. And the worst part, it's not just in our education system. It started off on the university level. It has spilled down all the way down to kindergarten, probably pre-K at this point. It's not just the education system. It has become so pervasive in the rest of our society that you have Hollywood movies quoting Howard Zinn. You've got a major Hollywood actor that I had no idea had an intimate, I shouldn't say sexual, but an intimate, close relationship with Howard Zinn, who proudly touts Howard Zinn. And the actor's name, Matt Damon. Wow. The only one I can think of off the top of my head would be Churchill's History of the World. No, I'm not a big movie watcher, but I do remember hearing it mentioned in a couple of movies. I do remember Churchill's history mentioned. Yeah, I, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I was amazed to hear Churchill being quoted because my ex-husband had the complete set. That's why it struck me. But go ahead, Curtis. Yeah, it's funny because Jimmy Carter is the one that came up with the idea of the Department of Education. So we have from Holger again another question: whether or not you feel that the federal Department of Education should be abolished. That's a given. You know, it's funny. As I was doing my research for you for your interview here, I pull up articles left and right, and Curtis can tell you I'll sit here with a stack of articles printed out, and Eric Erickson wrote an excellent piece, and I was starting to read your book when I started to read his article at the same time, and I said, how prophetic that the two came out at the same time. Because you talk about the Civil War in your book, and recently you heard another call out there from Bernie Sanders and others for reparations, that the white population should pay reparations. And Eric Erickson wrote a magnificent piece. And actually, I think it should be published in Flag and Cross. That's how good it is. He says, if you follow through with your Christian faith, we atoned. We paid those reparations because you had white Northerners that laid down their lives. I think it's something like over 600,000 Northern soldiers either were killed, wounded, or missing during the Civil War. We paid in blood. In the same way that Christ paid with his blood, he atoned for our sins. Our Northern soldiers did the same thing. So if anything, if you want to trace it back, my attitude would be go back to the original slaveholding families. Kamala Harris, are you listening? And have them pay the reparations, and watch how fast they'll change their tunes. But you talk about this and about the rewriting of history, even rewriting what Lincoln said and did and why he did it. Well, what really shocked me, and I'm here in the state of South Carolina. Of course, the bridge, the next island over from where I am, is St. Helena, where the Penn Center, one of the first free black schools, was established. Just a few miles in the other direction, we have Mitchellville, the first free black settlement here. It's steep in the history of the Revolutionary as well as the Civil War. And I was shocked to find out to the very area that we're in. I'm trying to think of the word, and I just major brain fart now. What it was called right after the Civil War? I forget now. I'm sorry. Reconstruction. Thank you. I'm thinking reparations, Reconstruction. It's known as a Reconstruction corridor because of the history of the Civil War. And I was shocked to read in your book that even here in the state of South Carolina, they're trying to rewrite the history. And you mentioned the Emancipation Proclamation because out in St. Helena is a tree called the Century Oak. And on that day, the Emancipation was read. Every enslaved black in the area was told, if you can get to that tree to listen to this proclamation, you will be free. And they came from miles around just to get to that tree, to hear it being read, to gain their freedom. So if someone tells anyone here that the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free you, well, we got a little piece of history to tell you. But yet, Howard Zinn's influence may rewrite that history here. I, It's amazing because now there was a mention in the chat room, and I had pulled this aside, the 1619 Project. And, again, I was a history buff at one point in time. And when I do read, I absorb it like crazy. But the first official slave holder in America was not a white man. It was a black man who sued to have an indentured servant be made permanently as a slave. And you talk about this in your book. You talk about the importance of the year 1619 when 20 Africans were brought over, but actually they were brought over not on an not originally on an English ship, but on a slave trader that was attacked and confiscated by a British pirate ship, then brought to the United States. So they weren't brought here as slaves, they were brought here as freed men from a slave ship. And yet, they have the 1619 Project that wants to rewrite our history here, saying that the first slaves came in 1619 by British slave traders, and then just tear apart the whole fabric of everything that we stand for. Oh, and New York Times is behind this. No, it is. It's an absolutely amazing book. I'm telling people they got to pick it up, called Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. It's up on Amazon. It was just released 3 days ago. And I started bookmarking left and right. It took me so long to go through 2 pages because I started highlighting left and right. And thank God I had a PDF copy that I was able to do that too, so I didn't want to mark up books. I'm one of those that I despise when I see pen scrawled inside a book. If you do it in pencil, that doesn't bother me too much. But I got this thing about defacing books. I don't know about you, but it is. You have so many good things in here, and you bring it into what is happening today and how it's affecting our very lives. And, if we don't start turning around our education system now and then reforming people's perspective of history so that when we do get someone elected to office, they have a good perspective of where we came from and where we can go to. But this rewriting of history is reversing everything our founding fathers fought for. There's so much that in your book that can inform people exactly what's going on here. Because we keep on saying, well, where do these kids get these socialistic ideas? Where are they getting this indoctrination? And we can trace it all the way back to Howard Zinn and the ones that he plagiarized, that he relied on for his false facts, and that can explain a lot. But it's going to be very difficult to undo the damage. So how do we start undoing the damage? I kind of dropped the ball. About a week ago, there was a little article in our local newspaper saying that we're opening up, the classroom books before the class starts, so you can review these books and let us know, if you agree or disagree with the contents of these books. And, I just saw the little article, I tossed it away because, like I said, I don't have kids. But after reading your book, I will never do that again. And the next time they open them up for us to see what's going on, I will be one of those sitting down to read exactly what is in those books that they're teaching. Because, you think about it, you say, oh, well, that's not going to affect us. But once those kids graduate and they go out into the world, into the business world, into the political world, into the religious world, into the education world, they will then influence the next generation coming up behind them. And if they're being taught a bunch of lies and spreading those lies and rewriting our history, we're walking down the wrong path. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we shouldn't be afraid. Absolutely. But you should go ahead, Curtis. Well, well, Mary, we're going to definitely have you come back on to talk about your education project. That is a given. But there's one last question for you before we let you go. Holder wanted to know that since you've had this book published, have you feared for your safety? Have you had threats made against you? Well, you're in a good field here because at one point I had someone attack me on the show here to the point where he actually published in the chat room my mother's private address, and she lives in the Caribbean. He then spoofed my phone numbers and everything else. And I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I'm also someone that had several small businesses. And I also managed a law firm. So, of course, I went tooth and nail, and that person disappeared. But they all do it anonymously. They have no courage, absolutely no courage. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. I mean, I could have done the whole 3 hours with you and your book and these issues, but I got my next guest lined up, Mary. I will be in contact. I will have you come back on very soon. And good luck with the book. I'm telling people, buy it for your kids. Put it underneath the Christmas tree. Put it on your coffee table to annoy your liberal neighbor. It's called Debunking Howard Zinn. And God bless you for the hard work you do, Mary. All right. Professor Mary Grabar, check out her book. Just click on the link on the show page and you can buy it right there. It just released 3 days ago. Want to welcome back another great friend of the show, Walter Myers III. Welcome back, Walter. How are you doing? Oh, it's always our pleasure. I mean, falling on the heels of Professor Grabar, we're just going to pick up right where we left off with her. Yeah, and we just had yesterday, I forget which college it was. I'm going to say Columbia, but I'm probably wrong. A professor that came out and tweeted publicly, I am pro-Antifa. I am Antifa. You have a college professor saying this. And yet you've got this young woman that was her state beauty queen being told she can't, compete any longer in the beauty pageants because she said that Antifa should be labeled a terrorist organization. Oh, what is happening out there? Has the world gone absolutely nuts? Well, yeah. Well, the funny thing is that the beauty pageant official that made the public statement stated that it is our policy that there is no political speech, and yet the whole thing has a political twist to it, because they ask that the women, what do they see their vision for world is? And they'll say world peace or whatever. Tell me that's not throwing politics in there. Come on. Somewhere along the way, politics does creep into our daily lives. And to deny someone's ability to express their free political opinion nonviolently and just stating what you believe in and support the American way is a dangerous thing to them. I was reading an article this past week about a protest that was going on, and they had an ultra-right group. There were a bunch of patriots out there, wearing MAGA hats and waving the American flag. And then they had the Antifa on the other side. I don't even know why they call themselves Antifa, because they are the embodiment of pure fascism, that group. So I don't even know why they want to give a false idea is the basic thing. And you're seeing that, these ultra right-wing people, the police had to approach them to have them remove the sticks from their signs and flags because they can be used as weapons. And yet you're looking at the black-booted, masked, black-jacketed Antifa on the other side hurling cups of cement at counter-protesters, and you go after the peaceful MAGA hat guys that have a stick on their sign or a flagpole that they're waving the American flag. The way the media portrays them is astounding. No, and heaven forbid you label Antifa a terrorist group. You had mentioned the neo-Nazis, and it reminded me of something that happened here a couple of years ago when we had the kerfuffle over the Confederate flag flying at the state capitol here in South Carolina. So they decided there was going to be competing rallies. And the cops in Columbia, South Carolina, were pretty smart. They says, all right, fine. You can put the Black Panthers at this end of the state grounds, and on the opposing end, on the other side, you can allow the white nationalists. So these two groups converged on the State House, each in their own areas. But guess what? We have so many Black Panthers and KKK members here in South Carolina. In order to have that rally, that competing rally, they had to bust the Black Panthers in from Philadelphia, and they had to bust the KKK up from Florida. So when you say it's not as prevalent as the media has you, the state of South Carolina is the perfect example of how prevalent it not is. Yeah, because I love it when the press puts it out going that the Antifa is anti-fascist, and I will say it until the day I die. They are the epitome of total fascism. Go ahead, Curtis. Yes. I don't know about his vulnerability, but I think the message is getting out to the right people. Because if you notice, the rallies, you don't hear about when or where, but because of today's social networks, the word goes out. You don't see flyers out there, for a rally for Trump, but the word does go out through the social networks. I mean, we've had the presidential candidates coming here through South Carolina because we're first in the South when it comes to the primary, and they have to blast it on the front page of the local rag in order for people to show up. Uh, and we are using the underground network here on the right because Beer Can Joe Cunningham will be coming to hold I don't know if he wants a town hall or what, about global warming. So we on the right are going to be showing up, and I will be wearing I Love CO2 pin, definitely. But the social network is working better for Trump than mainstream or lamestream media. Well, here's a poser for you because Trump is as bombastic as he is. Do you think that if he is reelected, and I truly believe that he will be reelected in 2020, he will, because of his personality, set the stage for Mike Pence to sweep in office after him? Because Mike Pence is presidential looking. Mike Pence is not out there making outrageous statements. He is just doing his job and doing a marvelous job. And he will carry forward with Trump's policies. Do you think that will be the backlash from Trump will sweep Pence in office? I'm not, Nikki Haley, well, she was my governor, and I agreed in most of what she did. And there's other things she did in the state that I completely disagreed with. Matter of fact, we had a couple of bus rides up to Columbia to fight her on certain issues. I'm kind of like 50-50 on Haley. But I had a similar experience with Louis Gohmert that you had. Only Louis Gohmert, I saw him 2 years. I passed by him. Someone introduced me to him. And about 2 years later, I stopped to hand him his aide my business card, and he remembered me. And it absolutely shocked me. I had not seen him in 2 years. Now you talk about a powerhouse ticket, put Louis Gohmert and Mike Pence together. Oh boy, watch out. Be interesting. Now, you are on the left coast in the communist state of California. Well, my stepson had made a comment the other day that, and my husband was agreeing with him, that if we cut the state of California off, just ship it over to China, they'll be perfectly at home. The only problem is people like you would be stuck. But, oh man. Well, I picked up a couple of articles that said only in California can we do this. In San Francisco, they decided to revise the official language, which I'm sure you're very well aware of, getting rid of such words as offender and addict, and changing convicted felon to justice-involved person. Some of this stuff is just so crazy. You don't have that bad a problem with homelessness, do you? So that they can spend time on something stupid like this. And how much is it going to cost the city budget to alter the language? Where instead of no longer... You know, it probably is a good reason why they're doing that, to push through. You know, they won't be able to get the federal vote right away, but if they can get the vote statewide, locally, municipally, and then statewide, then they can probably push for having felons the ability to vote. You can't own a gun, but you can vote. But they're ignoring the homeless problem. And right now in Los Angeles, they have cases of leprosy where 87% of the patients are not going to be able to recover from it. And the leprosy is coming in on the Latino community, which is from Central and South America. Leprosy that had been wiped out in the United States just 20, 30 years ago. You see cases of Ebola and other diseases, smallpox, tuberculosis, diseases that were extremely rare. And I mentioned this on our last show, that they have these commercials for whooping cough. Well, we didn't have a large whooping cough problem until we allowed an open border and stopped screening people medically. Now it's like, oh, you've got to get this whooping cough vaccination. Well, why do we have whooping cough now? It was eradicated more than 50 years ago. I mean, as a kid in the 60s and 70s, whooping cough was eradicated. So, I mean, but they're worrying about retitling descriptions of convicted felons, and instead of pouring that same effort into the homeless population, now we've got widespread disease. You see constantly coming up in YouTube, these videos that business owners are showing, saying, I am closing my business. I'm sending this out to my customers. I can't open my business. Every time I walk in, I've got to scrub the sidewalk. I have to clean up everything. I've got dirty needles piled up in front of my door. I've got people urinating in my doorway. I've gotten my business vandalized, my customers harassed because of the rampant homelessness. And as you said, California is losing their middle class. And what goes with the middle class? All the jobs. So you got homelessness that can't get jobs, but when the jobs are available, the people that have them have already fled. Well, Well, the trick then is you drive over to Texas, you rent the y'all haul, you go back to California, grab everything, have your wife or your kid drive the car you following behind you. You only get the rental for $400 and you save a ton of money, right? Go ahead, Curtis. It's come a long way since John Steinbeck wrote about California. Go ahead, Curtis. Yeah. Well, there was an article recently, I talked about it, I think maybe a month or two ago, about some vote tampering that was going on in California, where they changed the rules on absentee ballots, where the absentee ballot must be mailed in directly by the person who's the voter, or it's collected by a member of the election board or staff or whatever you call it. That they now allow a second or third party to give you the blank ballot, help you fill it out, and then return it to the election board. And that means that what they were doing is they were going out to the homeless communities saying, hey, listen, I know you're not going to go to the polls to vote, but here, I'm going to help you fill this out. Matter of fact, I'll tell you how to fill it out. Why don't I just fill it out for you? Just sign it here and I'll take it back. There was some vote tampering. I think it's Nevada. Well, there's a funny thing going on because we do have a lot of these illegal immigrants that are trying now to go for their citizenship because Trump is tamping down on illegal immigration. And out on Long Island in New York, some illegal immigrants have come out to election officials and said, hey, my name was used to vote illegally. And if I don't tell you about that, then you're not going to approve my application for citizenship. So it's got a little bit of a reverse boom to it. So maybe this phenomenon may spread across the country. So if we get more illegal immigrants that came out and said, wait a minute, my vote was used illegally. I want my citizenship, so I've got to report this to you. Maybe we might reverse a bit of a trend here. You think? Maybe? Absolutely. I've got a couple of other articles here I pulled out, and I thought they were funny, sad but funny at the same time. Your Maxine Waters. I mean, you guys keep on sending her back to Washington. I mean, come on, give us a break. I don't know if you caught this article that was up on InfoWars. That she went and visited the corner of 5th and San Pedro in L.A., the heart of Skid Row, where she was touting a $13 billion bill known as the Ending Homelessness Act. This was reported in the American Mirror. Along with her was Representative Al Green and a gaggle of her staff, and she visited a, quote, tent protest organized by homeless activist Stephanie Arnold Williams. And Williams said that I put these tents up here with my own money. Free sewing for the community. I do high blood pressure readings. I give shade and a place to sit. After purchasing a book from Williams and forgetting her name, Waters seemed overly concerned about getting back the $10 she was owed by the homeless person. This is funny. She said, and she's so creative. She set up a really nice environment here, but she's got all these educational books. And guess what? I bought the Langston Hughes book, $10, Maxine said, waving around a $20 bill. I need change. Come on, you can't make this stuff up. Yeah, that is so, so true. And it's not just these that are staunch, like Cummings, that's been there since God created Earth, or Maxine Waters. You now have the new ones coming in, like Ilhan Omar. And her unemployment rate, I believe, in her district is something like around 32%. We've been at the lowest unemployment rate since 1969, and yet she's doing nothing to bring jobs to her district. It is complete hypocrisy, and yet mainstream media is not paying attention to that, and they're supporting them. It's like everything's bass backwards. Well, well, with AOC, there are several Republicans that are now coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, listen, you know, she's embarrassing us. We've got to take this seat. And it's been a Democratic seat as far as I can ever remember. And that's quite a long time. But you do have some good, solid Republicans coming up in that district. One of them, a black female, happens to be high up in the Republican Party over there. Another one is retired cop, retired actually a couple of years after I did. So, we've got some good potential there. We just need to get our voice out and get their names known. Because if you see New Yorkers, when you piss them off, they will come out in droves. And I think if they can get enough Republicans in that district pissed off, because that Amazon deal alone had her fellow Democrats wanting to wring her neck. So I think if the New Yorkers get ticked off enough, we're going to see that seat change. Well, will remain to be seen, so we'll see what happens. But Walter, it has been always a pleasure to have you with us. We've got our next guest on the line with us, so thank you. How can people find you, Walt, if they want to, just exchange a little message with you? Well, God bless, and thank you for the hard. God bless you too for the hard work. All right, Walt Myers III. Check him out up on Facebook. Got our final victim in the batting room. Welcome aboard and welcome back, Michael Barnett. He is the chairman of the Republican Party of Palm Beach County. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you today? Oh, man. We have had a bang-up day. We had started off with Professor Mary Grabar and her book about Howard Zinn, and you just heard our buddy Walt Myers. Man, this political field, I said when Trump was running back in 2016 that it's never been this crazy. And every day it just is crazier and crazier. Did you ever think you would see a political environment as volatile as it is today? Well, I'd mentioned earlier at the start of the show that it's gotten so nuts out there and so anti-Trump that CNN, the criminal news network, has hired as a consultant Andy McCabe, the formerly deputy director of the FBI, who was smack in the middle of the Steele dossier and everything else, who lied, who perjured himself before Congress. And this is who they're getting to come on air with them. No, it is, and the problem is that now, if you are someone such as yourself or Curtis or I, and you do express a political opinion, and you're out there in the job field, or you're out there as a public image, such as Katie Williams, the Miss Nevada of 2019, and you express a conservative opinion or support for Trump, or saying Antifa should be labeled a terrorist organization, you're stripped of your job, you're stripped of your title, you're stripped of your salary. You have everything on the line. And it's now being used as a weapon against the average American. No, it's a shame. Curtis? Well, we've got a new chair in our county here in South Carolina, and the first thing he did after he was voted as chair, he got up in front of the audience and he looked over at me and he goes, "And we have to work with the Tea Party." And the Tea Party has been vilified so badly by the media and within the Republican Party. Is your county trying to do the same thing, to reach out to those that you've disenfranchised by thinking the Tea Party is anti-Republican? Wow. Well, that's what we're starting to do. See here in my county, because I start off each and every meeting and it says all politics is local, and you've got to be involved at the local level. And then I encourage them to register a Republican to show up at the county meetings. So I've been getting our people involved, and now finally we have the leadership here in the county, and that is saying yes, work with us. Let's all work as a team. The prior chair and the current chair have done that, which I find really, really fantastic, because we are getting more information out. We're getting more people involved. And that's how we're going to push Trump back into office in 2020, if we work together. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. No, it is great to see a unifying factor. There was an article out recently explaining why the Tea Party is not dead. We have just maybe not been as vocal as we used to be, but we have also joined in with our other conservative groups and Republican parties to help get the message out there. So you may not see us being labeled Tea. We may be a 912 group. We may be labeled under another conservative name, but we're still out there, and we're going to help you ride that wave taking back the House, the Senate, everything, and then getting more conservatives into the Supreme Court. And we can't do it unless, again, we work together. Well, one of the things I see here in South Carolina, I'm sure you're seeing it also in Florida, you have people moving from liberal states, be it New Jersey, New York, California, from Chicago. They're moving from these highly liberal cities and states into our states because they want to flee the policies of those liberal states and the taxes. Instead, what they're doing is they're taking that idea with them. So they end up coming down here, and we have a saying in South Carolina, we don't give a damn how you did it up north. But they are changing the face of our politics. Are you finding that heavily in Florida? Because Florida gets a lot of migrants. Oh, you gotta start putting out the bumper stickers. We don't give a damn how you did it up north. that was one of the first. That was the first bumper sticker I saw when we crossed over the North Carolina South Carolina line, and it says, "I love it. I love it." But now here in South Carolina, we have open primaries, and our main problem is we get crossovers that will vote in our primaries, causing us to have a weaker candidate than we should have. Do you register by party in Florida? Well, right now we're trying to put our foot in the door and we're getting a referendum onto the ballot, asking the voter if you would like to have your party affiliation on your voter registration. Once we do that, then you start the thought process going, well, my voter registration says Democrat. I guess I better vote in the Democratic primary, not the Republican. So once we get that door open, we can start to change the mindset and then finally get closed primaries. But that's the problem. They want the crossover voter to get the weaker candidate on the opposition. Well, we only got about 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes left on the show. God, this whole show is going so fast. It's always a pleasure to have you on here, Michael, because you are a font of knowledge. One of the things I am noticing is that we're getting people coming from different backgrounds finally stepping up and saying, hey, listen, we need a stronger conservative vote. And one of those, I had a laugh. We got another WWE star trying to go as a congressional candidate, Daniel Radomir. He is running, oh, good Lord, for Nevada, trying to take back a Democratic seat. Are you finding that new Republicans that have never entered into a race before starting to step forward and saying, hey, listen, we need to help take back these seats? Well, if you do speak to Laura, let her know she's got to come on this show because we did put an invite out to her and we're waiting for her to respond. So if you have a contact with her, say, hey, listen, you want your voice out there? You want people nationally to help donate to your campaign? Here's a voice for you. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Send them all my way. Matter of fact, just give Curtis a call and we'll book him on because we'd love to help promote a good, solid constitutional candidate for these offices and take back the Senate, the House, the whatever seat is out there, we're willing to help fight for. Well, what was that? You broke off. Did we lose Michael? Ah, yeah, Tim Scott's a great guy. And the funny thing is, Lindsey Graham did an about face because he was not as conservative and as strong when I first moved here. That was when he was, who died? It was a Strom Thurmond that passed away, that he was then appointed, that he was given that seat. Strom Thurmond, I believe that was. Yeah, for a number of years, he was very, very wishy-washy and very difficult to work with and get a good conservative message out. And once Trump started running, he started to change his tunes, and people are just loving him. Because I have literally stood toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose with him, battling him on conservative issues, to the point where his aide had to take me by the shoulder and move me aside. But now you listen to him speak, and this is not the guy that I went and fought a number of years ago. I'm glad to see it happen, and I'm glad to see he's finally a good, strong, solid conservative. But maybe he put something in his coffee. I don't know, but I'm glad to see it happen. Well, it looks like my buddy Mark Sanford, and he is a friend of mine. I know him. Been Met him when he was at the governor's mansion. I helped him when he was running for Congress. But once he got on that anti-Trump train, he lost a lot of support, and now he wants to throw his hat into the primary to go against Trump. Mark, I love you dearly, but don't do it. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Well, Michael, it has been a fantastic time having you with us. Telling people to check you out. You're the chairman of the Republican Party of Palm Beach County in Florida. You do a wonderful job, and it's always fun to have you on here, Michael. Absolutely. God bless. All right. I we got Curtis coming up Friday the 13th. We've got Judge Janine Pirro will be coming back. She's got a new book out that I get the chance to sit down and read and talk to her again. It'd be fun. One New Yorker to another New Yorker. Judge Janine will be on the 13th. We've got other great guests lined up coming up. So, guys, just stay with us every Friday between 3 and 6 p.m. And thank you for joining us. It has been an absolute blast. Blah, 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 blah. I'll get my tongue in straight. All right, Curtis. Yeah. So I'll leave everyone with our closing song, When the Roll is Called Up Yonder. So until next Friday, I say good night and God bless.